Our next speaker is Freyr, Amery. They, them, theirs is a queer, non-binary, trans, multidisciplinary artist and educator born and raised in North and Central New Mexico. As a practicing artist and arts educator, Freyr invests in uplifting critical consciousness by respecting and nurturing livelihoods of creative relational practice as a method of combating the cultural impacts and institutional consequences of capitalism, colonialism, imperialism, erasure, and implicitness. Let us welcome Freyr Amery.
Hi, buddy. A bunch of those young people who are just on stage, I have the pleasure of also being one of their teachers. So it's really good to see them. Thank you, Pueblo and Indigenous relatives, organizers, and partners. Right? Thank you to all the amazing performers and speakers, to everyone that's here today. Thank you for sticking it out also, for just standing here and listening. That's like a big deal, right? I'm really privileged to be with you all. I love that we are all here to support women, to support cis women and trans women, right? Yes, I want to see, next year I want to see trans women on this stage, okay? Within this setting, as a trans and non-binary, gender fluid, gender non-conforming person, and I always have to ask, on whose terms was that language made? And what does it really mean about what we are saying? Whose constructs are we operating within? My ask is this: please show up for trans, non-binary, two-spirit, and intersex people. We are also impacted by patriarchy, belittled by misogyny, violated by toxic masculinity, and silenced by colonialism. Yeah! These things are super real, right? We have to look deeper at deeper historical connections, and that we are placed within a system that has been created solidifying the constructs of race and gender on very specific terms based on shifting norms of profitability and ownership in order to justify the theft and exploitation of lands and peoples. So what can you do for trans, non-binary, two-spirit, and intersex people? Hire us, house us, create policies that help protect trans, non-binary, intersex people in your community. Harm reduction, especially for the most targeted among us, Black and Indigenous trans women. Support ending non-consensual intersex surgeries and end the pathologization, demonization of intersex trans, gender non-conforming bodies under the essentialisms and incorrect sciences that wrongly solidify binary sex and gender. Integrate language that invites us into the privilege of being a part of your spaces and practices. Say siblings, relatives, in addition to sisters and brothers. Find words for us that belong to your family, your culture, your community, and use them with our consent and love. Use our pronouns and names correctly. Practice them and correct yourselves when you mess up. Do your own soul searching and self-education. This conversation is not just about words. It is about feeling, sensing, practicing, and using your love and intuition. It is about asking questions, being courageous, practicing care and consent, addressing your discomforts. These issues are about safety, physical and emotional safety. We are in a mental health crisis for many people who are impacted by these sorts of oppression. Check mentalities that fetishize us, erase us, demonize us, paint us as amoral, tokenize us, shame our bodies, appropriate from us, stop exploiting, and change the standards of interaction. I swear everyone will benefit. If you are not simultaneously supporting Indigenous visibility, practice, lands, movements, Black and POC movements, the deeper work is not being done. See how these systems of theft and oppression have their roots tied together. We need bridges in our language and practices so we can find avenues to disrupt the ways we have internalized this violence in the way we see and practice each other. It is the responsibility for white and cisgendered people to dismantle the most egregious parts of these systems. We will all fail, But by doing and creating, we are living and embedding value systems that better support our lives. We are creating kinship. Remember, trans people, trans women, non-binary, two-spirit, intersex people, we are your community. We are not a separate community. We have had to build chosen family because of displacement. This reality is both beautiful and challenging. The horizontal violence we experience is real. Trans, non-binary, intersex, and two-spirit lives intersect with some of the most pressing issues because these systems were created on the standards of erasing us. Prisons, borders, housing crisis, addiction, sexual violence, reproductive justice, street harassment, the impacts of extractive industries. Keep trans, non-binary, two-spirit, intersex people with you in your mouths. We are so much a part of the ecology of this planet that we keep being born. We are undeniable. For example, I want harm reduction for incarcerated trans people, but I want to end and dismantle this gendered, racialized system that intentionally criminalizes the most impacted by oppression in order to create profit. Love to survivors like Centoya. Love to trans women making it through the immigration facilities right now. Love to the trans women we have lost. Sadly, we have internalized these policing dynamics in our communities. Thank you all for listening. But like, really, I can talk big, I can dream big, right? But ultimately, it is small, courageous movements we all take to practice agency, to show up where we are at, to look at our shit, to be real about how truly simple and complex these issues are, address our organizations and practices. We all have to grieve. How do we practice from a spirited, alive, unruly, caring, complex way of seeing? We are not logic or machines, we are lives. I want to extend tenderness to the way that burnout is real. Brittleness is real, right? Rage is real. Like, we are all real and we are all impacted. Thank you for your time.